Thank you for tuning in to Dollars and Dreams Hour podcast. We have a great show today on episode 4. We actually asked our viewers last week to give us or submit questions in regards to what they want to know, in regards to the industry we're in, also entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. We had we were surprised how many we got. Response on our DMs and on our Facebook's pages and things like that we have. And we had over 50 responses, and some of them, we don't even want to answer those questions, right? So a lot of non-related things that comes in. I guess it goes with the territory,
I guess so.
So we have those things that come in, but we're going to try to answer as many as we can. Obviously, we're not going to do all 40. It'll take us maybe 5 hours to do, and we don't want to do too much in one podcast and to bore you guys and us at the same time. We don't want to be here for 3 hours, 4 hours, right? So there's few things that we have. It just depends. I don't know. I don't know which part you want to answer. It's which ones you want to take and which ones you want me to take.
I'll go ahead and, answer it away, ask it away for you.
You want it? Which ones do you want to? Okay, we can just split it and whatever you want to ask, and then I guess we'll go back and forth on that one.
Let's go ahead and do that.
All right.
So one of our viewers actually asked, can I have multiple life insurance policies?
Well, you can. That's a simple answer, and a lot of people do, in our industry too, and in the questions we have with our clients too. Can I have multiple ones? Of course you can, depending on, of course, the face amounts, and because when you apply for life insurance, the carriers will always ask you if you have applied to others, if you do have coverages, not only that you have policies, but they want to know exactly how much it is. Mm-hmm. Because if it's over a certain amount, they will need your financials to see if you're actually worth that much. And at the same time, they want to know if you're going to be selling these products and or what you're going to do with it. A lot of times they do settlements and they do a lot of policy selling that people can sell their policies to certain buyers, right? There's a market for that too. So they want to know what the situation is. Is it going to cancel the other insurance policies or not? But you can get it as long as it's within the range that is within your income, right?
Absolutely.
So you can have 5, you can have 3, you can have 10. Depending on that mark again. If it's 4 million or 5 million and over and so on combined, then they might ask certain things of you, financials and things like that. But
I'm sure not a lot of people know that, you could sell a life insurance policy as well.
Yeah. A lot of people, especially when you are older, you can sell those products, sell the life insurance settlements, and a lot of people will buy it, but of course, it has to make sense because when they buy your policy, for example, you have no control over it. So they end up taking over your policy and pay for it. Mm-hmm. But they have to know what condition you're in. So a lot of times they'll do the tests and evaluations before they pay you the big bucks, right? So sometimes they'll actually pay you $100,000, $200,000 if it's a $500,000 policy. Some of them, depending on your age, the settlement could be a good amount that people can retire on. So you can do a lot of things with life insurance. People don't realize a lot of the benefits of it.
There's a lot of benefits that you could get from life insurance policy, but that's the sad part. People think when they get life insurance policy, let's say, right? They think, oh, why do I need a life insurance policy? Whenever I die, I'm not going to benefit off that, but you got to look at it on a bigger scale. When you get a life insurance policy, you can't look at it on that smaller scale. You got to look at it in a bigger scale because, one, your family is going to benefit off that, right, at the end of the day. And 2, heck, you can even sell it if you don't want it. Mm-hmm. Or whenever you have a life insurance policy, you could use that life insurance policy whenever you're, let's say, getting a house and all for a house and all of that, you could put that as income too, depending on the life insurance policy, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits when it comes to life insurance policies that lot of people don't know about.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of noise and a lot of misinformation. You know,
That too.
it's always the negative that kind of goes viral. You know, you have, I think the algorithms rewards negativity
Yeah.
over positivity. So a lot of the negative things, you see a lot of people that are talking against certain products. You see their rails are going crazy because it is attracting people, because people are going against it. They're telling them, hey, this is wrong, this is whatever. It's getting attention. And that person gets stuck in promoting even worse things, because now they're like looking at it and saying, you know what? Look, I talked for it. It didn't work. Now I talked against it. It's working perfectly fine. And it's getting me attention. So now they're becoming even worse than what they were, right? So they're doing even more bullshit, basically putting in all that stuff just to get more attention.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the problems. Well, we have the next one. Let me see. Let's see this one. We'll skip that one. Okay, here's a good one, actually. How do you handle competition in the market?
Well, how do you handle competition in the market? So I don't believe in, drop your prices and all of that. I highly don't believe in that. What I do believe in is providing your customer with the best service that you could. Because at the end of the day, we're in a service industry. And your competition is not going to have the best service, as good of a service as you could provide them with, right? Because if you're in the service industry, people think that service industry, you got to be on the customer's side no matter what. No. But if the customer sees that you're providing them with good service, you're answering their phone calls whenever they need you, right? You're answering all of their questions. You're not giving them BS, right? I don't want to cuss. They might, take our video down and all that. But whenever the customer sees that you're not BSing them, you're upfront, straightforward with them. Depending on the customer, obviously, they're gonna like you and they're gonna go with you no matter what. Now, whenever it comes to competition, I put it in my head that not a single company or a competitor is better than me. That's how I handle it, right? So in terms of competition, that's how I'll look at it. I don't look at it, oh, you know what, he's a competition, this and that. No, I'm my own competition, not the company in front of me.
You just take control of that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, competition is going to be always there. What do you look into? Do you actually look into your competition? Do you do
research?
Research?
Absolutely. Of course, you always got to do your own research, right? Whenever it comes to competition, whenever you go buy something in the market, you still do your research. But whenever it comes to competition, you always want to do your own research, because you want to see what's so different about the competition. If they're doing better than you or if they're doing worse than you, you want to make sure that, you do the research, you do the due diligence of the competition. So if there's something in your own company that you could tweak up, you can make it better, you could definitely do that as well.
Okay. I mean, what else do you do? I mean, as far as when you look into the competition, right? What are some of the things do you use to analyze them, or do you analyze them, or to see what they're doing, or other than, let's say, do you look at their online presence? Do you look at what are the things? What will be like? I will say, what's one specific thing?
It's mainly online. Yeah, it's mainly online because that's very accessible. You could research them online, very accessible. Yelp, Google, Instagram, if they have Instagram, depending on the company, right? Depending on the competition. But I would highly recommend, if you're looking into your competition, you want to make sure you go to their Yelp, their Google, base it off their reviews, right? And even if they have a website, you want to go on their website to see what kind of products they're providing their customers, if they're being truthful or not. Because just like you said, you know, there's so much BS out there that people falsify on the internet, right? When they don't present the correct information online. Besides them presenting that information online, they could present that fake information to their customers for them to get that quick buck.
Yeah, with a lot of Yelp. Actually, I think they got sued a while back ago because they were having fake
reviews
or they were having, you know, if you paid them certain amounts, they used to do some fake stuff, and they had some situation in that sense. And I think, you know, a lot of companies do that, you know. Or like they have their family members click on stuff, right? Especially like, you know, smaller companies, right? And they're just reviewing, and you look at the reviews, you're like, oh, probably it's like family member, because it's like a pattern, right?
Next thing you know, they're taking pictures with the guy that just took the review a couple of days after.
There's drinking online together, but that's the whole thing. And I think a lot of competition. I think, you know, a lot of people are afraid of their competition.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, especially with me in my the competition that, let's say, our captive agents and so on and so forth, they actually work for us, because I get a lot of clients from my competition, because, you know, the things that they cannot do, I do, and I cannot do, they do, right? So then we pass it on. So I kind of like created a network of people that are going against me to work for me, and vice versa, you know, because they like literally, a lot of people will say, oh, how about this guy down the street, and so on and so forth. Or, you know, of course, you know, most of them you're not going to work with. But I'm talking about, and I try to copy whoever is better than I am. You know, if they're better, I just copy.
Yeah.
You find out what's the thing that they're not doing. I kind of try to implement that thing that they don't do. Maybe that might push us a little bit higher, right? So competition is, it's just, sometimes you have to make them your friends, not your enemy.
Oh yeah, or get close to your enemy, right?
Yeah, of course. That's the thing, right? They say, you know, keep your enemies closer and your friends closer. That's the same concept, because if you keep them close, make them friends, guess what? Now you don't have an enemy, right? So that's the point. And that, right? If you keep your enemies close and be friends, they might not stab you, and the people that you know that you don't even think in a million years, they end up stabbing you because you don't pay attention. You know, you look at all the historic things, it's usually who opens the door and invites the enemy is usually someone from within, right?
Yeah.
So, the other one we have, let's see. You want to add? You want to take another?
Yeah.
You want to take another?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, good.
Let's not fight over some questions, right?
I'll just have you answer all the questions. Let's see here. Where is it? Let me scroll down. Let's see. I'm trying to choose one of them that's... Okay. It says, you know, this is a good question, I think. You know, it says, what inspired you or you guys to open your own business?
What inspired you or you guys to open up your own business? Well, to start up your own business, especially with a partner, I think it's very important to make sure that the partner that you're opening up with is on the same page as you are, right? Because it's money involved. No matter what, there could be some consequences or some arguments. It's money.
Yeah.
Some people, they get greedy when there's money involved. But obviously, we don't have anything like that between us.
We have no money.
But what inspired you? I would say good friendship. That's definitely one of the things, right? We're both driven. We both are inspired by each other for us to make it better and get better in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, I think it's just, first of all, owning your business is just something that it has to drive you to do. You know, it's like we had the last episode, right? We talked about entrepreneurship, the hardship, and all that stuff. You have to be able to stomach the pain, the suffering, the long-term, it's just like a lot of people can only suffer maybe 1 month, 2 months. Then there's some people can suffer 10 years and then end up successful. And the other thing with, you said partnership and people that you work for, like how we started this podcast, right? We were in the beginning, I never wanted to be nowhere close to a camera or nowhere close to being on a social network, social areas. I've never put my face on social networks and stuff like that until, of course, this podcast and things. And a lot of times you need somebody, like when we started talking, he's like, oh, you know what? I have a great name. You put the name down and it was like, oh shit, it's really resonated. And we just stuck with it and changed a little bit of it because a few other people, of course, I always say, you know what, you have to create from something that is already there, right? It's not like we came out and then somebody else had it. And then we just kind of improved on it and then add a little bit of more so that way it becomes ours.
And put the cherry on top.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes ours. But the most important thing is when you're with a partner and you have to be able to be with somebody that is actually with the same risk tolerance, right? Because and maybe a little bit, but not too much. Because let's say if you're with somebody and you open a business, one is a super risk taker and one is not. It's not going to work out. It's like I always say to people, I said, listen, if you jump with a risk taker, into a water, they're going to take off because you're going to end up dying because they're not coming back for you because they're already on the third lap or they're in the middle of the ocean and you're still, drowning.
They're heading towards the island.
Yeah. And, and what I mean by having the same kind of risk is somebody to do it together, sometimes you're scared of doing something. But when you have a partner, it's easier because, you kind of, if you're afraid of heights, right, and you have a partner with together, even you might be afraid of heights, right? Mm-hmm. But when we're together, we kind of encourage each other, right? It was like, hey, you know what? If you jump, I jump, right? Yeah. If you don't jump, I'm not jumping. So you're like, you know what? Screw it, I'm jumping. So we take the same risk and we jump together. And basically, the way I say it has to be same kind of level because if it's too much of a risk taker, right? This guy goes crazy far and you're drowning here. He's not carrying you down. But if you're going together, if something happens to me, you carry me out. If something happens to me, I'm carrying you out. Yeah. So we end up winning together and climbing together, right? Instead of, let's say this guy is here and then you're here, this guy's not going to wait for you. He's going to say, hey,
not. They're going to take off.
Yeah, they're going to say, you know what, you're not at my say. That's why a lot of businesses don't survive because one is crazy and the other one is mild, and then they don't blend. So you have to have a common ground and common goals, right? Yeah. So that way, one is not. Of course, there's going to be someone that's always saying, hey, let's jump, right? But then you bring that.
We have somebody like that too, but we calm them down.
Exactly, right? So you have to be able to kind of have that balance, I think,
It's very important for you to have that balance. If you don't, like you say, you're going to drown. Because at the end of the day, it's a business. It's not you're not an employee. Mm-hmm. You're an owner. Your employees rely on you.
Yeah.
Now, I always say it, if you have a business, you got to get married to it.
Yeah.
Because you have to treat your business better than, I don't want to say better than your marriage, but at the same time, I do want to say that too, because it is very important. If your business goes down, you're not going to be able to feed your family.
Yeah.
So that's why you got to treat that business better than your marriage. That's my opinion. That's
Unless you get married to your job. Then that's a different problem.
That's a different point, yeah.
Then you're screwed up the rest of the things. That's the key, And I mean, the reason why I guess we did this and we opened a business is because we don't want to, like we said last time, we don't want to work for anybody, right? Yeah. So we do it as we do, And we might work a lot of hours. Like today, I've been working, and then now it's like almost 9:30. We're still working.
It's never ending.
Yep. And probably we'll have some other things to do after we're finished here. So we're going to be touching some stuff, and that's the whole thing.
Go home, sleep, and then wake up and repeat.
Do the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. We have another question in regards to insurance.
Okay.
My insurance company is declining to continue my policy when it renews. Can they do that?
Well, yes. I think probably this particular person that is asking the question is probably dealing with property coverages, let's say homeowners and auto, especially in California. Now they can literally do anything they want.
Whatever they want.
Exactly. It's kind of crazy because we deal with it on a daily basis. Like today I had 2-3 cases where I just couldn't place anything because it was just decline after decline. Even at a major carrier, they actually declined this person to take their case. It's a new home purchase, right? But this client is buying the new house. The other previous owner had a claim. They had a water claim. So the insurance company is not covering them because that claim was there. But it's not them. I'm like, well, it's not your claim. They're like, you know what? They're turning it down. And it's a very big company. It's an A+ company, and they just declined it altogether. After taking them in, they saw the claim. After the claim, they declined to write the policy. And the other things that they can decline in your policy at the renewal time is if you're, for example, I will say it this way, if and when it renews, what happens is the insurance companies will automatically do inspections. Nowadays, they do it more often than before. Like before, they didn't do any inspections. A lot of times, it was like maybe 2-3 years later, or if they did an inspection, they just did like a very minimal Google search. They look at the roof. Oh, okay, it's fine. Boom, it's done. It's automated. But now they have physical people that are actually going there, flying drones, looking at every tiny thing. So they can look at your house. Let's say, for example, if it's your property, most of the time it's the property that they might not renew or cancel altogether at renewal. And they will say, you know what, we looked at your inspection. Your house roof has a mold on it or has fungus on it or has a little bit of shingles are off a little bit, or they're worn out. Now, it's a little things, but they can actually cancel for it.
Yeah.
The other thing they can do to cancel that, if you don't want to get canceled, is your trees on your properties. And I was going to talk about this on our, on our main insurance Instagram, where a lot of people are getting cancellations because they have big trees that are very close to their property line. And the insurance company can say, listen, I don't want to cover the trees because if something happens, the tree is going to fall on it. The roof is a big issue. That's why when they buy houses, I always tell them, look at those 3 things. Your roof, actually 4. Your roof, your plumbing, and your wiring, plus the trees on the property. Because if you have 5 trees that are close to your house, how much is it to cut a tree?
It's very expensive.
So if you have 3, if it's 2,000 or 4, that's going to cost you a lot of money.
It's going to cost you definitely 2 arms and 1 leg.
Yeah, it could cost you anywhere from 10 to 20,000, depending on the size of the tree and how tall it is and how wide it is. So those are the things that the companies can do. So they can just all together say, you know what, we're now renewing it. We have a lot of companies that actually are non-renewers. I had at least 10, 20 policies from one of our carriers that they don't even. It's just a simple things, but they can just say, you know what, we don't want to do anything with you.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else. They will rather lose it because that's an excuse, kind of. They find something for you to, for them to decline, actually.
Especially in my opinion, especially in California, since a lot of insurance companies, a lot of, I would say, AAA companies, you said, right? they're trying to shift away from California. They're looking to move away from California because of the fire zone, because of all these claims that are recently started happening. You know, yeah, some houses are old, right? But it doesn't give them an excuse, in my opinion, for them to move away.
The moving away is because of the not being able to get the rates they want to.
Yeah, of course.
That's one of the biggest issues. And Allstate just recently raised 30%.
Oh yeah, they're just gonna keep on raising the prices until they're done with California. But I'm sure
until that nobody can afford a house.
Yeah, besides nobody affording a house, the cost of living in California, let's be honest, is ridiculously high. It's not, it's not. I want to say the East Coast, but East Coast is still expensive. But they just keep on raising prices. Homeowners insurance, car insurance. Then people have to survive. They still have to do their daily activities. They still gotta get their gas. They still got bills to pay. How are all these people gonna afford it? Yeah,
insurances are very expensive, and a lot of the realtors actually are having a lot of issues because of the affordability part of it, right? Because they have to debt to income, they have to, and they some of their clients are like stretched to the exact spot that they need to be. They're like barely, because they have let's say if they're doing FHA, they have the mortgage insurance, right? So they have to do that mandatory on top of everything else. So now you're getting into the insurance side, which was like $100 before, $90 before. Now you're like looking at $1,000. I had people that had homes in the hillsides. Their policies from $3,500, it went to about $17,000, $18,000. So imagine people say, oh, you know what? The guy is living on the hillside. Yeah, his mortgage is $8,000. But then he's making money. But at the same time, they all have budgets, right? They all have, let's say, the more you're making, the more you're stretching yourself. So sometimes the guy is making, let's say, $20,000, but his expenses could be $19,999, right? So you could be like right at the spot, trying to get it the next level, right? For example. And then let's say if you have another additional expense, which is $1,000 a month, that's a huge thing, and it's just California, I don't know what's happening, what's going to happen, but if it does not correct itself, it's going to be, the rates are outrageous, and people are getting canceled left and right. I had people that got pissed at their carriers, and they canceled, and they started shopping after canceling. And I always tell people, do not do it. That's the stupidest thing you can do, is cancel your policy and then look for a policy, because you might not find. And some people found out the hard way, where it's like, what do you mean I can't find insurance? Yeah, I'm like, nobody's going to give you for the same price. Oh, it was a good price. Yeah. Now they go back. They're like, sorry, now $300 before, now it's $600.
Exactly.
Like, wait a minute, I had it $300. Yeah, you're a new client now because you canceled your policy.
I had a client, I believe it was last week. Yeah, I think it was last week. He called me. He got a brand new Mercedes, excited and all of that. His car payment is $730 a month, something like that.
Awesome rates, right?
Yeah. Just wait for this. This guy's paying $730 for his car. He's excited. He's like, man, I got the best deal on the street, this and that. I'm like, man, congrats. He's like, yeah, can you just check how much my policy will be for insurance? I'm like, yeah, of course. So I check it. Insurance went up, obviously, since the last time he's called us. So I'm checking. His insurance is going to cost him $950 or $956, something like that.
I think I remember that.
I tell him the price. This guy goes crazy. What the hell? Insurance is more than my car payment. I'm like, well, I don't control this.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys do your due diligence before you guys get a car.
That's one of the smartest way now to do it, because a lot of clients now, A lot of the ones that we have that they're going to add cars, and they sometimes will call me. I had a gentleman that called me in regards to that and said, "Hey, I'm looking into buying a car. I just wanted to run it by you." Right. And I'm like, and it was like, oh, it's going to be my first car for my daughter. I'm just going to get like a Honda Civic, something cheap. I'm like, no, don't get it. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, don't buy a Honda Civic. He goes, why? I'm like, your rates are going to be higher than if you bought a Mercedes or if you bought something else in replacement. And he's like, what are you sure? You know, and then we compared two different cars. And then we had a C-Class and then Honda Civic. The Honda Civic payments was, I think he was going to buy it. And then, one of our guys that we referred to and said, hey, listen, you know what? If you lease it, you're going to lease this car, and for the same payments as the Civic that you're going to buy. Plus your insurance is going to be almost 45% less if you bought the Civic. So your daughter is going to drive a Mercedes, which is safer and, it's lease. But anyways, your daughter is going to be 3 years later. Your daughter is not going to want to drive the same car for 3 years, 4 years. Kids change their cars. Yeah. It's like, but I don't change the cars. But like, I'm like, yeah, because you're at a certain age, you don't care in changing. But when you were younger, did you change? I used to change it every 3 years, every 2 years. But now I'm like, I'm tired of doing that changes. That's why the last car I just purchased it because I'm like, you know what? But I didn't even know. Maybe 5 years down the road, I might like. Get
change
the
your
urge.
heart.
Exactly. New one comes out and you're like, oh, you know what? They're giving you a good deal. They're enticing you, right? It's like the casinos. The dealerships are like casinos. They entice you to come in and to change your car and all that stuff. So a lot of times that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people cry. When they call us, we're like therapists now.
I mean, speaking of that, one of my friends, he bought what was it, like a couple of months ago? I think I told you about this. He bought a Nissan GTR. Fast car.
Yeah.
Very nice car. He bought it, but I told him not to buy it. Because I told him, I was like, the second you buy it and you get insurance on it, you're going to get hit with a crazy expensive insurance. He didn't believe me. And then I showed him the research. So Nissan GTRs, I believe it was in 2022 or something like that. They had the highest ticketed they had the most tickets.
Oh, wow.
So due to that,
that's the reason. Because usually exotics are not,
they're not, but GTR had the most tickets. So due to that, the insurance for that car was crazy expensive. And he obviously done some crazy stuff on the car.
Yeah.
He wouldn't just leave it alone. So that just keeps on adding up.
Modifications. That's the reason I think a lot of those cars will be flagged. Because let's say if you buy a Ferrari, your insurance is not that much.
Yeah.
I have people that have Ferraris and we insure them. It's like one of them was, I think, 859 because, of course, you're not driving because your miles are low. You're not putting 20,000 miles a year. They're putting like maybe 1,000 a year. That's like a weekend, not even a weekend car. It's like every other weekend, maybe something, right? So a lot of times they just sit there, and this guy was buying it because he wanted to buy a higher one. So he kept on buying. So how the Ferrari does it where they don't just say, hey, you know what, you can just buy this one. The top line, you have to kind of go into tiers.
You got to start off from bottom and then move up. Yeah, of course.
And he's like, man, he goes, I'm driving the Ferrari. It's what, 200 some thousand. And then he's like, I have what was his other car that we had insured? I think it was the Ferrari, which we did it with a different company, obviously. And then he had the other policies. And then it was $290 a month or something on one of them and then 200 on the other. And he's like, this car is 40,000 or 50,000, and I'm paying more for the insurance than the other car. I'm like, yeah, because you know what? If you're driving that car, you don't drive it often, and second, you're more careful because you're in a high value car. You're not gonna.
You don't want to scratch the rim.
Yeah, exactly, right. So like those people don't do crazy stuff. Usually it's the ones that have Nissan Altimas and things like that. They soup it up and they have like 6 exhaust systems. They have the brake.
There's some nice ones.
Yeah, it's like crazy. For me, I don't know why they do that, right?
You drive an electric car. So.
Yeah. No, even when I was younger, right? So I I've never modified my cars at all.
Oh, no,
I kept it all stock, like Germans and things like that. I kept it stock because, if I wanted to race, I had like people that, I had friends that were into, he was big in the Asian racing community. He was like, I met him at the dealership, and he used to modify cars. So every time we wanted to do something, we just went to the tracks. So and it was like, hey, you want free stuff? I can modify, put my stickers. I'm like, no, don't touch it, man. I don't want to get tickets. I just don't want to, because it's just, I didn't see any purpose to it, and spending money, that's the crazy
modifying cars.
Yeah. It just depends on what you love, it's just everybody's.
It's a expensive hobby.
Yeah. It's insane.
All right.
What we have next?
Let's not get carried away. So this one seems good. So what are the key factors to consider when choosing a life insurance policy?
Okay. This one is, I think we can go like 3 hours on this, but we're going to keep it in.
Let's keep it at 2 hours and 59 minutes.
Because this is very important. This is, by the way, this is the second one you asked me. I should have asked you one.
Well,
you're cheating here. Here, I think one of the most important factors is the agent. Other than the product is the agent, right? Because anything that you buy, the most important thing is finding the right person to guide you, right? Let's say if you're buying a real estate, you find the right person to guide you. If you're going to a doctor, you want to find the right doctor, right? You don't want to just go to anybody. Anybody can do surgery, but why don't you just step into anybody's surgical thing or go visit them, right? Operation room. Or let's say, if there's millions of doctors, but what do? You look for the best one, right? You ask around and you have a referral. And a lot of our clients come in based on that because people have experienced what we're doing. So I think the most important thing is having the right agent. Then the other factors are basically what is it going to do for you, right? When you're looking into insurance, the main thing is determining why you're buying that insurance. What is it going to be used for? How long is it going to be used for, right? What are your goals within that? What the purpose in regards to, if you're doing let's say, for example, if you're doing an estate planning, is it going to be for that? Is it going to be just because, let's say you're borrowing money, they want something, or you bought a house, do you want to protect your mortgage because of that? So what is the purpose behind it? It will determine the factors in choosing the right one. And if you have the right agent, that person is going to give you the guidance, what the right one is, or give you the right information. What I tell my clients, I said, my job is to give you everything that I know about every certain types of policies that it's there. And once I give you the education, then it is your turn or your position to choose the most intelligent decision that you can make based on that advice that I gave you. Because if I don't give you an advice, you're not going to make an intelligent decision. But if I give you if I give you all the tools, let's say why the term insurance will work. Let's say you go to an agent that is only solely sells one product. Let's say term insurance. What is he going to advise you? Because no matter what he advises you, what is he going to sell you? Just only going to term, right? Right? Term. No matter what's out there, he's not going to talk about it. He's not going to give you the idea, concepts that might help you. And does it fit? It's like basically if I'm a size 5 and I try to, I give you that pants to you and say, hey, here you go, wear this pants. It's not going to fit you, right? Because, you're bigger than I am, let's say, or smaller than I. It's either going to be big or it's going to be small. So it's not going to fit. So the same thing, it's like you're going to a clothing store and it's only one size. How is it going to fit you? You need something that fits you, right? So same thing. Or, the same concept is when you go to a store, you buy a shirt, right? You buy a shirt for every different occasion. You're not going to buy something that is fits every. You're not going to visit. Let's say if you go to a wedding, you're not going to go like this, right? Or if you go to the gym, you're not going to go dressed up in a suit, right? So the same thing with life insurance is not everything fits perfectly in every situation, and going to the agent is one of the most important. And when they come to us, let's say, even if they don't come to us, choose an agent that sells variety of things, has variety of tools, has ability to give you advice on variety of things. Because if you go into a life insurance guy and he's talking about investing the difference, right, which a lot of people do, and I was reading many articles about that, if they're doing invest the difference, statistically, when you look at the population, right, they have actually bought and have spent the difference. If they have been spending or not spending that money, well, guess what? Majority of Americans would have had a savings. Obviously, we have what? Debt, right? So if we have been buying this and then saving the difference, then we would have been okay. But 99% of the people will not be saving the difference, will be spending the difference. And on top of that, and of course, again, depending on your age. The other factor is your age and your health. Because if you're unhealthy, you're not going to get the top tier ratings, right? And some of the term insurance policies will not carry you over, or they might be very expensive or short term. Second, if you are old, and if you're beyond a point where the term insurance is not going to carry you over to 90 years old, 95 years old, because the older you get, guess what? The shorter term they're going to give you. So you're going to lose that time, period. Yeah. They're going to offer you, then we have to do, let's say, final expense, which is whole life. So there's no product that is bad. What happens when a product becomes bad or insurance becomes bad? If you buy the wrong type for your wrong purpose.
Exactly.
So that's what I tell people. Agent, and based on the advice of the agent, you can make the intelligent decision. But you have to choose somebody that is intelligent in the first place for you to get the intelligent information.
Yeah, because they could provide you with some false information. How many stories have we heard whenever the agent tells the customer, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you a whole life, or I'm going to give you anything but term insurance, but they end up, selling a term insurance to the customer, and then the customer doesn't realize it. Then when we come along, we're like, you know what? This is a term insurance.
Yeah.
You've been paying for this term insurance for this past 5 years, and then customer can't do anything about it. Because the customer trusted that agent 5 years ago whenever he was selling the customer, the life insurance. And next thing you know, all that money that the customer had paid for 5 years is down the drain.
Yeah. And most agents, a lot of agents don't survive the business.
Oh, yeah. They don't, because they want that quick money.
After 5 years?
Well, I guess.
There's about 80% chance that you're not going to, how they say businesses fail, right? We were talking about last time.
Within the 5 years, yeah.
Within the 5 years, you have an 80% chance you're not going to see that person again. Yeah. So a lot of times, like you said about that person, I went to, I think it was maybe 6 years ago. I went to this family's house, and it was one of our agents that introduced us. He was new in the business. And we went and sat down with the family, and they had term insurance. And this guy was actually teaching me about term insurance. So I'm just listening. I always have a habit where I will listen to them until the end, because it's interesting, because I know, I just want to know how much more crazy it can get, right? It's just another story for me, because I want to see how much, when you see crazy, how much more you can go, right? So this guy actually said, oh, this is the product I have. It's a term insurance, and it has cash value in it, and you can get the cash and so on and so forth. I said, listen, you don't have term insurance. You have something that is not term insurance. You can have whole life. You can have IUL. You can have a universal life. He's like, no, I have term insurance. You don't need to tell me what I have. I know my products. I said, listen, I've been in the business for a long time, and unless the companies just introduced a product yesterday, maybe I might have not known about it, but I'm pretty sure this is how it is. I'm like, okay, bring your policy. He goes, no, okay, I'll prove it to you. I'm gonna show you that I'm right. I said, listen, I don't care about you proving me right. I don't want to prove you wrong. I'm sure you have your reasons why you think that way, right? I said, who told you all this? I just want to know who explained this product to you. He goes, the agent, right? I said, I don't think the agent had explained. Maybe you misunderstood something. He's like, no, you're telling me I'm wrong again, right? I said, look, I don't want to piss them off, right? Because you might end up, not doing anything afterwards. So I'm still like trying to leave a door open so that way we're not arguing. I said, listen, I believe you. I understand 100% about what you're talking about. But just bring the policy. Let me look at it. I'll show it to you. And if you still disagree, and I don't have, I will say, you know what? You have a great product. That's all we can do.
Stick with it.
Yeah, because I don't want to convince the crazy person, right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot, the only crazy can do is crazy. So this guy just brings his policy. I look at it. I said, listen, what does it say here? He's like, term insurance. I said, show me a part that shows cash value. I said, you might have had, they might have explained to you about return of premiums. I said, maybe that could have been it. He's like, no. It says, it accumulates cash. I said, no, it doesn't. What he told you and what he sold you is two different things. And he's like, how's that possible? And I showed him to, and I said, listen, I'm going to show you the policy. I'm not making this up. I said, just follow my fingers, And I'm like, now I'm treating him, I'm like telling him what to do exactly, right? So I showed him and he's like, how's that possible? How did he lie to me? I said, listen, he probably didn't lie to you. Maybe he was talking about other products and services. You kind of got confused. Maybe you wanted something less expensive. He gave you the term instead and you kind of make risk. No, he told me I can take 10 grand after 15 years. I said, well, I have a product that you can do return of premiums, that you can get all their money back after the certain period is done, let's say 20 years, 30 years down the road, or if your policy matures, you can take the money. He's like, no, man, he told me after 2 years, 3 years, it accumulates cash. This is what I'm talking about, And unfortunately...
So bad.
That's why I say, factor is the agent, because products across the board...
It's all the same.
Same. Yep.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me pick one. All right, here we go. Let's see here. Let me ask you something. I got tired of answering questions.
Let me ask you something.
That's the thing, It's like, they say whoever is answering is losing, right? Especially in business, that's one of the questions.
That's why I'm always asking the question.
Yeah, exactly. That's why in business, you always should be asking the questions and have the clients answer, and I do that a lot of the times when I'm sitting down with the clients. The first thing usually I ask them, why am I here? People get confused. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, why am I here? Why am I here and sitting down with you guys? They're like, well, we want life insurance, or we want auto insurance, or we want, even if I call my referrals, I'm like, hi, how you doing? I was referred to you by this person. Is there, what is it that you want us to help you with? But I already know. But
Obviously.
What they're doing is they're selling again. So, let's see here. Oh, this might be. This one will be better maybe now, and then the other one I might ask you a little bit later on, at midnight.
Yeah.
So it says.
Seems like today's gonna be a sleepless night.
So it says, how do you handle failures and setbacks? Good question, actually.
One thing about me personally, the word failure is out of my definition.
So you never fail?
I'm sure I fail. But what I mean by that, I just don't like that word. It's my most hated word. Setback, sure.
I guess that's why maybe they put it there so that way.
We all have setbacks. Yeah, I'm sure we all have failures. But if you take it as a failure, a lot of people, in especially the insurance community, right? Mm-hmm. When they see that they're failing at being a salesman or as an agent, all they do is quit, right? Failure is the number one enemy of
Quitting.
The second they notice that they're failing at something, they quit.
Yeah.
I don't have two words in my definition: failure and quitting.
But if it happens, what do you do?
What do? I just get back to it and just keep on grinding it. Because if I fail, I gotta see what I'm doing wrong at that point, right? I gotta see my mistake. Because obviously I didn't fail because I was doing everything perfect. I was failing at something that I messed up on.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be marketing. It could be sales. It could be, product, anything. So if I'm failing at something, then I got to work on that for me to get it better, for me to make it better, and for me to get better at it. Because if you take out failure, you're going to succeed.
Well, obviously, you're right. But as far as like, let's say if you do fail, right? Even though you might call it something else, right?
Yeah.
Let's say setback or fallback or
whatever you want to call it,
right? Or just avoid it altogether. It's just what happened to you yesterday. Something happened, right? But as far as if it happens, right? Obviously, there's no one that is successful that hasn't failed.
Of course,
right? I mean, I don't think there's anybody that you look at. I think the only person that doesn't fail is that hasn't done anything. Let's say
you got to fail for you to learn.
Yeah, it's like but if you fail, not other than like going back. Let's say, for example, like going back into, let's say, finding out what happened and whatnot, and not the research part of it. Mm-hmm. But how it's more of a mindset, other than like,
it is more of a mindset, in my opinion.
What is it how do you conquer that mindset? Let's say, because it will mentally, like not the physical part, not the where you say, you know what, I failed in marketing. Yeah, knowing where you failed, versus how do you get over that mental stage, right? Because it
you want to say the mental depression.
Yeah. So maybe that's not in your vocabulary too. That's why you might have been sensitive to that.
I just like being positive. That's all.
No. When you fail, let's say, other than the positive, I think that's and I want to know too, right? So that's intriguing.
It's not like none of us have.
I'm picking your brain too, right?
Yeah.
So I was saying, when we start talking to each other, not only we find out more about each other too, but also we kind of pick each other's brains too. Yeah. We learn a little bit, because when we're like off of this, a lot of the conversations we have and we're working, it's like mostly like very short and stuff. And sometimes you get pissed with me texting you long stuff, right? So those are the things that we don't communicate as much.
Or you'll just call me and just go on.
Yeah. So it's not a deep. But as far as the mental side, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, I think in audience, as far as that, how do you handle the mental part rather than the physical and fixing part of it, but mental to get you to that point?
Oh, mental part, we all have failures, in my opinion. This is just coming from me. Yeah. It's not like, I'm preaching everybody to do it. But mentally, I just try to stay positive. That's it. Okay, we failed at this one thing. Mm-hmm. Sure, let's fix our mistake. Let's see where our mistake is, where my mistake is. Because I'm failing, that means it's...
What if you did everything right? Right? Let's say you did everything right.
But everything right could be in my book, right?
But you don't know what my book is looking like, right? So mm-hmm. You cannot compare it.
Yeah.
So let's say you did everything in your mind, right? Let's say in your mind you did everything perfect, 100% that you could have, or your abilities, right? There's sometimes everything that you do 100% to your ability mm-hmm. could be maybe someone else's 10%, right? Like, so it's different. But let's say if you did everything 100% of your ability, and you're 100% right, it's the perfect product, perfect pitch, and perfect everything, you failed. How do you come back from that mentally? How do you come back and where he says, you know what, how do you kick that thing, where a lot of people shut down after a failure, right? That's why they fail, is because they shut down mentally, not trying to find out things, but also does it shut down altogether? Say, you know what, I quit because it's too much for me.
First, I don't go and cry on my pillow. I have hobbies. You know that.
Yeah.
I just try to, get my mind off of work, off of that failure part, for me to relax a little and then get back to it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because the second you stop working on yourself, the second you quit on that, that's it. You're done. That's when I consider it as failure.
Mm-hmm.
The second you quit, that's where the failures that's where you could call it a failure.
So as long as you don't quit,
Of course,
you
as
can
long
call
as
it
you
as a fail.
yeah,
It's a setback.
yeah, it's
Right?
seriously a setback.
Yeah.
It could be financial or it could be mental.
Yeah.
It's just a setback.
Or all three together, right? Sometimes that happens. And
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
yeah.
It happens for the best of us.
I mean, I don't think anybody that truly, it's like, when they talk about, this is kind of generic, right? So, I mean, when they talk about, we want to be more organic because, when we talk about this stuff, we want to be as organic as possible. Like, that's why I want to pick your brain is rather than just like, what is kind of, I will say what's out there that people always use the same lines. When you go to Instagram, it's like, all you have to do is just change the faces and every answer is almost the same because they copy and paste the answers. We want to be organic about it, but this one is more generic because, like, say, let's say Jordan, right? If how many shots did he miss, right? But he's still one of the greatest, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I wanted to, just kind of say, how do you get off of that? Which is a good thing. You said, what distraction?
Yeah,
Getting into something that you love doing, coming back to it again.
the second, in my opinion, the second you quit, that's where the failure comes in. I mean, I just try to stay positive. Yeah, I'm a human. We're all humans.
Yeah.
We all get tired. We all go through shit, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like it or not, positive or negative, we go through that same shit. But at the end of the day, if you quit, that's when you say, okay, I failed at this one thing.
Yeah. But even if you do, it's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing like,
because if it's a dead horse, you have to let it go.
Yeah, obviously.
You can't ride it out. Some people, they have a dead horse and they're still like trying to ride on it and they're not moving anywhere. It's just they're beating the same horse.
Yeah. No, I mean, depends on how you look at it. But I just try to be positive as I could be.
What keeps you positive?
Everything. Shit, I'm breathing. I'm positive.
Yeah, you woke up, right? I always tell people, there's a lot of people didn't wake up.
Yeah.
When I go to my clients too, and this one I told this guy, he was, this gentleman, again, a few years back, I go to his house. The guy is wealthy, right? I mean, the guy has good money. And I will say, wealthy, at that time, this was like maybe actually more than that, maybe 10, 11 years ago. So the markets were much more different. He had like $1 million to whole house, right? So at that time, 1 and 2, it was really higher there because the home prices, let's say 300, 200, somewhere in that range, even more than maybe 10 years. But I was sitting down and we were talking back and forth. He's like, oh, you know what? He's just delaying everything. His wife wants to do something. He's just, everything I said, he was just giving me objection after objection after objection. And there was a point where I was like just tired of overcoming those objections. Like I just, it's like one of those trainings where you do like 2 hours of trainings and objections and objections and objections, but you have like 3,000 of them that you did. And at a point I got tired, so I kind of changed the subjects a little bit. And then at the end I said, I forgot what his name was. I said, listen, call me if you wake up tomorrow and we'll discuss this policy. And then he just, for 1 second, he was kept on talking. And then when I said that, he just stopped. And then he goes, huh? I'm like, I didn't get it, I'm like, well, call me if you wake up tomorrow. And he goes, what do you mean? What is that? Like, what
was that supposed to mean?
I threw him off because it wasn't in his objection times, and now I'm kind of reversing it. And he's like, I said, yeah, because let me tell you this. I said, a lot of my clients didn't wake up today. He goes, what do you mean they didn't wake up today? I'm like, yeah, they did. You know, and the wife starts laughing, and he's like, man, that's like insulting. You're telling me I'm going to die tomorrow? I was like, no, I'm not telling you that you're going to die tomorrow, but a lot of people don't wake up. I said, listen, I might not wake up tomorrow. I want to make this money for my kids. You know, I want to make this, and I didn't have kids at that time. But I said, you know what? I want to make sure I have this for my kid and for somebody else to make the money, my family, right? So I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I might not wake up, so I want to do it today. This is all the things that we're doing is for you, for your family. I'm not doing it for me.
Yeah.
I'm doing, whatever we're doing here. That's why your wife sees the benefits, not because she's going to kill you, is because if something happens to you, she's going to be on the street with your kids. And he's like, you know what? Just write it. Let's get it over with. Otherwise, you're going to kill me tomorrow. It's like, I don't want you to leave with the negativity. Right? That's why I say, be positive.
Be positive.
So the guy was positive. So I turned it into a positive. So that's a lot of the times, I think a lot of people quit too, and a lot of people quit so early. That's why they fail so many times. And then mentally it hurts them too, All right. So you don't want to answer another question?
No, I always ask the questions.
I'm a loser here. How do you lose in 1 hour?
All right.
Hour of losses. See. You can ask me anything.
Anything? Even your social security number?
I'm sure they hacked into that, so especially recently, right? People were not...
how crazy was I forgot the company's name. Over the weekend, the outage.
Oh, man. I'm so bad with names. Rock something.
It was like a Microsoft update or something.
Yeah, I just forgot their names. Anyways, we don't want to advertise those bastards. They just destroyed some of the people's lives.
Oh, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, I had
family members get stuck in the airport for 5 days.
Yeah, one of my brother-in-law's niece was coming from vacation, and I think they got stuck one day because of that. So a lot of people got stuck, man. It was just great because like they show the map. It almost looked like COVID time, where everything was grounded. I think 95% of the planes were grounded or something. Only a few airlines.
Bad, yeah. All right. Anyways, so. All right. This one's a good one. So what is the main difference between term insurance and a permanent insurance?
Man, you just chose the most generic one out of them, huh?
Yeah. I asked the questions.
Now, where's the application? Let's just do let's make some money on this. Term and permanent, this is one of the simplest thing, but the craziest thing is, it is the simplest question, and we get it most of the time and a lot of the time. And it's the simplest question. It's most difficult, I think, for people to understand, kind of. I think sometimes the simplest things end up being the hardest things to do. Like it's simple to open a business. It's simple to do certain things. But at the same time, it's one of the hardest things.
I think it's simple for us, since we've been in the industry, since we decided to take the insurance path.
So you're telling me I'm prejudging?
I think so. Okay. I think so.
Other prejudging say I'm trying to switch the question. When he used to work at the dealerships and stuff, says don't prejudge a client because they might end up.
I always say that to our guys.
Yeah, so
they always prejudge.
Yeah, it's like it's the worst thing you can do because the one that doesn't look like it ends up buying twice as much things than the one that looks like it. But with your question. So that way you don't get mad and say, hey, you diverted again.
You feel like you're being interrogated, huh?
Yeah. It's like the interrogation of an insurance agent. But, the permanent and the term, I always simply have one thing, that can simplify it even more, right? The term policy is whatever the insurance company determines how far you can go, and the permanent one is You determine how far you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was telling about the agents, meaning what the products they can sell you and they can offer you and they can present to you, is different products. Let's say term, right? They control the term of it. And a lot of people will say, oh, you know what? IULs are not great for you. Don't buy this. It's expensive. It's just full of crap, right? But let's say even at that level, let's say if you are an older person, if you can go to that far, let's say if you're 30 years old, right? We can do a term policy that the company can, we have companies that can do even up to 45. There's certain carriers that can go over 40 years in coverage. But what happens is you're 30 years old. What's 30 years or 40 years from now or 45 years from now? That's 75 years old, right? Let's say if you're 60, then that can stretch down lower and lower. So the company decides at that time when it's going to expire. This is what an agent will say, but you know what? You can always extend it. They can guarantee issue. Yeah, but at 4,000% more than what it was now.
Yep.
Because if you're paying $400, now it's going to be 400% more. Because what happens? At 75, 30. What is your age? Term insurance, the way it works is this. The insurance company stretches for 40 years and averages it out, your mortality rate. They look at it. And based on that and based on the cost of insurance and so on and so forth, they will look at what's going to cost you altogether on those years. They average it out and say, you know what, based on those, this is how much it's going to cost you. $50 for the rest of the time. So that will be set. But with the permanent side of it, you decide how far you want to go, right? Let's say even if you're not doing IUL, and a lot of agents that are selling, I've seen so many agents that have, I'm not talking about, the seasoned agents and stuff. I always say there's no bad agents. There's informed agents and there's uninformed, right? It's the education level. It's just same with attorneys. You can go to, why do you pay $1,000 for one attorney's hour and then you pay free for the other? It's because of the experience and the quality is going to bring in. Same thing with us. And the permanent side, you decide how far you want to go. If you want to go 120, let a term insurance agent tell me how they can give that policy to someone. If you told me, Sarkis, I want to have this policy to last me until I'm 121 years old. Some people think that's a crazy idea, right? But if you can survive, statistically they're saying, even like a lot of the health experts and so on and so forth, they're saying that if you can survive next 25 years, you probably will end up not dying. Because they will have, or if you die, it could be 120, 130. They can prolong your life. Mm-hmm. Because of what? They might have artificial limbs, artificial heart, artificial kidneys, Why do the people age? Is because of these organs are getting older, right? So once their organs get older, we start dying. So if they can regenerate everything, and yeah, we might become robots, but if our brains are there, we're still the same person, right? So you're going to end up living. So your insurance can be just because if you die, it's some mechanical failure, right? Let's say it's short circuit, you die. So in that case, that is still...
Your fuse is a little bit off.
Fuse is a little bit off. And some people, now their fuses are off, right?
Yeah.
The crazy ones, I always say, there's a saying, right? But the permanent one you choose... And there's other products that there can be like a permanent, let's say guaranteed universal life, that can take you up to 121. It is similar to life insurance, the term insurance, but then you have full control how many years you want to go rather than the insurance carrier.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference. It's just one can take you longer. One is just what it is, just term. And one other thing that I want to do, want to say the term insurance is, of course, you're looking at how much it pays industry-wise.
Yeah, that 100%.
So...
I mean, like you said, you got to make sure that the agent that you work with, it's educated, right? Because you don't want to work with somebody that's uneducated, sell you a term insurance and tells you, it's permanent insurance.
Yeah.
Which we come across a lot of those guys.
Well, honestly, there's a lot of people that do it. and they're just out of what they have and what they can't sell, they cannot offer. And I think the business is, it's just, again, it just comes down to meeting the right person.
Yeah, but transparency is the key.
Some people, unfortunately, they're least transparent. They're afraid because they're not either informed. Number one, they don't have the right information, or they don't have the ability to, or the strength, I will say, to tell the certain truths, because they don't and can't come out of it because they don't have the right information. Because they know if they say something, they're afraid that they cannot sell it because they're telling them the things that they should not be telling sometimes, right?
Yeah, I would even add to that. I would even say they probably don't even have the right guidance too.
Of course. Because they're not, a lot of people, when I sold cars, right? A lot of people, they were afraid of any questions, like they panicked on the questions. Just answered it honestly.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you answer the honest question, even if your product sucks, people buy you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why people buy different products. There's so many people that sell so many things, right? Sometimes you go to a person, the products is not that great, but their sales guy is so amazing. You buy the product and you come and trash it.
You want to buy two more.
Yeah, and you buy two more, but then you come home and it sucked.
Yeah.
But because of the product. And sometimes we have family members that they suck at what they do, but we still use them. Right?
We have to at that point.
Yeah. Or let's say sometimes the guy, I have people that don't do a great job, but they're just good people. And I trust them in different areas, in different things. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather give this guy this business and kind of, even with our podcast, right? So
yeah.
There's one that said, why you guys do podcasting? At least it's not like hate stuff, At least we didn't get anything that says you guys suck or stop.
Not yet, I think. Not yet.
Stop doing this,
I hope that never happens. I hope everybody's enjoying it, hopefully.
I say, you know what? When people start hating you,
that means you're doing something right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because then you're making noise. If they don't hate you, you're not.
Then you're doing.
You haven't stepped
wrong.
on somebody, right? And it's not I always say, when the business, and we'll close with this, and we were talking about the partnership and stuff, going together, and a lot of, I think it's one of our guys were posting something, and it says. There was a song and it says it's lonely at the top, right? And I usually tell the reason why it's lonely at the top because you sacrifice everything and everyone and anything to go on the top. Because of that, when you get to the top, you burn the bridges, you lost your friends, you lost your family, you lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
But now the only thing you obtained is money.
That's it.
And I think in the most important thing in business is having the right perspective and having the right people, having the right partners. Yeah, I had partners before that you kind of part ways, but that is natural. You have to, I think, go through a lot of things, like even with our agents.
Yeah.
We have to you go through a lot of people before you find that right person. Then you go another 20, 30 people and you find the right person. And I think that's naturally, you have to fail 10 times at least to make it one time. And I think that's the key in failure is, like sometimes I welcome that. I say, you know what? I don't care if I fail. I don't fear it because now you have fear of failing. Not only you have should that, never have and that, then you fear of fear. You know, so... and you should not be afraid because I think that's the reason why when you open a business, if you think you're going to fail and if you fear about failing,
you're going to fail.
It's going to happen. It's like, it's like, if you cross the street with your eyes closed, you might not get hit by a car. But if your eyes are open, you most certainly will end up getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same, But that's the key in everything that we do is just a partnership. I think that's the key in business, finding that right person.
Just risk it for the biscuit. That's
it. That's going to be our slogan. We'll have some biscuits. If anyone that wants to sponsor biscuits, they can send it over to us.
Just make sure it's not dry.
Soft biscuits. And I think that's pretty much what we have for today. And we want to keep it short. And then I think we will next week we're having a guest. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully you guys will follow us and see you guys on the next podcast. Thank you.